Hey everybody, Dr. Roy here.
And Dr. Marco.
And welcome back to the RightHab channel on YouTube. So on Instagram this past weekend, I put out a question on what exercises have you been told not to do? Because we did a little YouTube short referring back to a podcast that we did previously. And you know what I got more than anything? Deadlifts.
Yeah.
Which, like, to not do, that surprised me. Second place was squats on what I got. So number one, both of those are fine. Yeah. It's about load tolerance. We talk about this all the time. Load tolerance and grading your exposure. Can you do the load that you're trying to do? Or is it symptomatic or not? Can you control it? Those are what matter. And work your way up from there. That's what's important. There's not a right way to do deadlift, not a wrong way to do deadlift. Actually, lately in the clinic, we've been doing some exercise between patients. I can't tell you how much bad feedback I've gotten from patients about, you're doing that wrong because you're not holding your back straight.
Really? Someone told you?
Several people.
That's cool.
You're not doing that right because you arched your back to do it. I just don't say anything. I appreciate the feedback because they're saying it because they give a crap. They care. But one thing that surprisingly drummed up some feedback, and I appreciate the feedback, man, I love the feedback. I want this to be a discussion. I'm not insulted by any of it, was how we have previously said we don't like long arc quads. And I brought up the feedback to Marco. Marco doubled down. So Marco said, basically, no, forget that. This is why we don't do them. So what we said before is we don't like long arc quads because it's too basic. It's not functional. It doesn't apply to functional mobility, to sports, to life. I have said personally, I have 3 exceptions. I think I have 3 exceptions to that where I'm okay. If you're a bodybuilder, go ahead. You're trying to focus on building that muscle big as possible. If you're a fitness person, like a fitness model, you're trying to shape a certain way, fine. That's for you. That matters. That's important and that's appropriate. The other thing I would say is if we put the BFR, blood flow restriction, on any exercise, it becomes a valid exercise just because we get a whole lot more out of it. Still doesn't make it any more functional, but your rationale is probably different there.
Exactly.
I can't think of any other ones.
No, not really. I mean, those would be it. I don't know. Maybe non-weight bearing on that foot for whatever reason, and we want to maintain.
Okay, see, there are exceptions.
Yeah.
I tend to be dramatic when I say these things because so many people push this stuff that every person gets these and they're not very good. So the feedback I got was, hey, such and such, another social media knee guy does these. They're in his program. So, and I had honestly literally just been reading an article that guy was involved in, looking at a bunch of other articles. And the biggest article that we were looking at in that bunch of articles talked about what exercise to do. And it showed open chain versus closed chain, no difference as far as pain, function, strength, etc. So why not do the one that's more applicable to real life? I'm not saying that long arc quads are dangerous, which is a seated knee extension, if I haven't said that yet. And also for neuromuscular control was another rationale I got. The research also said that all of our methods for neurological re-education, neuromuscular re-education, didn't show any difference between just doing regular exercise. And putting the electrodes on to re-educate also showed no difference. The best they could say was moderate evidence that it was the same open chain versus closed chain. So knee extension versus a squat, that they were equivalent as far as those metrics I mentioned. So Marco, when I brought it up to him, Marco doubled down and said, well, I want function. It's more appropriate for them if they walked in here, they can use their quad in closed chain against gravity, and that's where they're going to be using it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's very little cases where I think open chain is going to be, or that particular type of open chain.
Yeah, you can't make a big sweeping statement.
Yeah, no. A function will always trump, I think, just singling out a leg extension.
Right, and that massive group of muscles, if you can stand, you're already doing better than a long arc quad.
Yeah.
I'm not saying never do it. I'm saying you can do better.
Exactly.
So it's kind of the point of this one. Do better. I really love the feedback. I know that some people didn't want to necessarily say anything because they felt it was going to come off the wrong way. Man, I don't care about that. Let's talk about this. We want there to be a discussion. We all grow.
Yeah.
All right?
All right.
See you.